Hey everybody, Young Grasshopper here. Welcome to the Cliffside Bunker in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And here we have an episode of Battleboard Basics. It's a video series just helping new players understand the dynamics of the resolve combat phase. And we have a pretty significant sea battle here. We're going to roll out. We're going to talk all about what's going on here. And this is an American amphibious assault trying to liberate the Philippines from Sea Zone 35. They left Caroline Islands, moved into 35. Of course, the Japanese have some ships there. They occupy the Philippines with these 2 infantry, and 3 planes are also on the island. Now, 2 transports are coming in with 4 infantry. We're going to see if they actually land. We have to take care of the sea combat first before we do the fight for the territory with those land units. There's a lot going on here, so let's just get started. These bombers came from the Caroline Islands. They can reach Sea Zone 35 and land back there. The 2 fighters and 2 tactical bombers came from these 2 carriers. Now, these carriers are behind the line just simply because they do not get an attack value. And of course, neither do these transports. They're waiting with the cargo on them. There won't be any bombardments, of course, because there's a sea combat that negates the bombardment. Even a single fighter scramble would create a sea battle, negating the bombardments, but that's irrelevant. For Japan, the carrier will get a defense value at 2. This transport is a lone transport sitting there with the fleet. It won't get any dice. We've got a battleship, cruiser, 2 destroyers, 2 subs. The 2 subs here defend at 1. The 2 attacking subs for the Americans attack at 2. Now the Americans here now say, okay, my combat movements are all done. And by saying that to the table, declaring that, they allow the opposing side to now make their plans, their strategic decisions, like scrambling. Are we going to scramble? And in this case, yes, they do scramble. And also 35, Sea Zone 35 is a kamikaze zone, so they have 6 kamikaze tokens. They're not going to hold any back. They're going to use them all in this battle. All right. So what else can we say about this? So just remember your combined arms, guys. So tactical bombers on attack with fighters will be bumped up from 3 to 4. That's why they're in the 4 spot here. And it does not work on defense. However, the fighters all defend at 4 anyway, and with those 3 scrambled aircraft. Now, the fighters do not want to stay on the land to deal with this. They're going to put it all in the battle here. The sea battle is the more important thing. If they can get lucky with their kamikaze tokens, along with other things, then it's quite possible that they end up destroying this anyway and keeping the territory. So let's get started. Now, the first thing that happens is we're going to resolve the kamikaze tokens. Now, at this point, I know I haven't put up a video yet about kamikaze tokens, but nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and use them. Now, I can apply them in different ways, and there will be lots of comments in the videos about how to apply them. Of course, you cannot target transports or submarines or aircraft. So we have the battleship, 2 carriers, cruiser, 3 destroyers. Now, I could put 3 on this battleship, 3 on this cruiser, or 2 here, 1 here. Now, I'm going to leave the carriers just simply because they can't really hurt me. Of course, they can absorb hits, but they can't hurt me. They're not going to get dice in the battle. I want to try and take out units that are actually going to roll to hit against me. All right, now how am I going to do that? Well, here's a pretty powerful battleship and a cruiser. I got 6 tokens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 to the cruiser. I want to really get rid of that. I'm going to put 3 to the cruiser, and then I will put 1 each per destroyer. And the reason why I do that, I want to try and get rid of the fodder the units that can soak those hits, allowing the more powerful units to stay on the board for a second combat round, a third combat round, whatnot. So if I can get rid of some of this fodder, I got a pretty good shot at getting rid of the cruiser. I don't want to put 2 here and it absorbs a hit and it stays on the board and things like that. Now, there's not a lot of bad ideas here. I mean, obviously, you're going to use what you have to take out what you can. And this is how I'm going to go with it and set this up. So we're going to resolve these kamikaze tokens right now. That's the first thing that happens, okay? So I've got 3 at 2 to get rid of the cruiser. I feel like I'm giving myself a good opportunity to get rid of a unit that attacks me at 3 or less. And I get it right there. So if this was applied to the battleship would stay on the board damaged. So that's why I choose to go for the cruiser. Now it comes off right away. So that really helps Japan. It's going to get nasty if I can get some of these destroyers too. Americans are a little nervous now because they know that the odds are slowly tilting away from them because of these rolls. So doesn't really matter, their targets are all the same. So first destroyer, miss. Second destroyer, hit. And third destroyer, miss. So we got a cruiser and a destroyer. That's not bad. Not bad. Gotta be happy with that. It's better than whiffing on all of these, not getting anything. That would be a waste. And you start second guessing yourself about how you applied your tokens. So got rid of the cruiser and 1 destroyer with that. Now the attacker goes. The attacker goes. It's interesting. I never quite figured this out. If somebody could answer this in the comments. Can the attacker retreat after the kamikaze tokens have been rolled? Just thought about that. I'm not quite 100% sure on that answer. We're going to go ahead with this battle, but if the Americans, for example, lost 4 ships total, it's interesting. Do the rules state that the attacker can now retreat after the kamikaze tokens have been dealt, or must they stay in for 1 combat round? So a little interactive video here. So let's go on. The Americans are going to attack. They do not get a roll for this, these. So they're going to get 4 at 2. Now we have to be careful when there's always submarines and especially aircraft, but it's not going to matter so much with the aircraft. The subs can be used as casualties against the aircraft because both sides have destroyers. All right. But what it is going to matter is that any hits from the submarines cannot be applied to aircraft. I know we're quite early in the battle here and it's not going to matter, but we are going to, as habit, separate our rules, separate our submarine rolls, and we're going to, with the American subs, roll 2 dice, just the submarines first, and boxcars, and they miss. Now we're going to use the American destroyers, which are 2 destroyers there, also 2 or less, and there's 1 hit. So 1 hit with the American destroyers. Moving on, that cruiser's not there anymore. They're going to get 2 at 3 for the fighters. 2 at 3 or less for the fighters. And there's Snake Eyes. 2 hits with the fighters. And here's the biggie. We've got 5 at 4. 5 at 4. Another one. 5 dice at 4 or less for the Americans. Ooh, only 3. Alright, so 6 hits total. Now, before Japan rolls back, we need to assign our casualties. Okay, there's reasons for this. First reason is it's the rules. We have to obey the rules. Second reason why it's a rule is because we cannot allow the Japanese to just roll everything, see what we hit, see how well we do or how poor we do, and let that affect what we take away as casualties. We must do it first before we roll. Now, there were 6 casualties. We're going to get rid of these 2 subs. They roll very poorly. We're going to put them in the casualty line here. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's going to allow us to keep our high-end dice. And now, because now they have assigned their casualties from those hits, we're going to go ahead and we're going to roll 2 at 1 for the submarines. No hits. 1 carrier and 2 destroyers at 2 or less. Ooh. 0 hits. Even though that they managed to take off a couple of ships with the kamikaze tokens, this is not looking good for Japan. They get 2 at 3, the tactical bomber and the cruiser. There's 2 hits. That really helped. That's 2 hits. They could really salvage this first round combat phase. So 5, you got the 3 fighters and the fighter from the carrier and the battleship. So we're going to roll 5 at 4, 5 at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, before I move on, I see that I made a mistake. All right. So I'm going to leave on a destroyer and apply this. Now, if it goes down the way that it just went down, most players in a house game will say, yeah, you forgot to damage the ship, go ahead. You know, it's not a big deal. It's just something that if we were aware of, we would have remembered to do it. In this case, it's fine. We're going to damage our battleship and keep this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to remove these now. Those are our casualties for Japan, and Japan actually ended up doing okay, salvaging the last half of that combat phase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excellent. This is where it would have helped to take out more destroyers, but what we're going to do, there's still quite a few at 4 there. I need as many rolling units as I can in the battle because you know, I might not get all of these. We might go into a 3rd combat round. So I have to take 6 off. So there's 4, which is quite a bit. And I'm going to just go 5, 6. All right. Actually, let's go 5 and 6 like that. Well, wait a minute. We made the same mistake again. We have our own battleship to tip. So 1, 2, 3... Let's see this again. Now, there's still a destroyer here, and that matters because our submarines are null void. Now, if that had to go, then keeping our submarines would have been smart because they get a surprise strike against these, but now this is still here. Let's think about this. So 1, we want to leave 1 up here because we don't want to put too many aircraft in the drink. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're still at 5, and we have to go 6. But let's might as well take it all off and then just do this because this is a rolling unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's a lot of decisions that come into casualty removing. Okay. We have to be smart about it, but we can also be creative. But we want to go into the 2nd round, the 3rd combat round with our best chances of finishing off the enemy, right? Now, the problem with losing the carrier is that 2 of these planes are vulnerable. So by removing the carrier here, any hits coming from these are going to obviously need to be applied to at least 2 of our aircraft like that there, just simply because they're going to be lost. Let's see how the second one goes. So those are my casualties for America. Let's move on. The second combat round. Second combat round. America goes first. Now remember, any hit from this needs to be applied to a ship, not an aircraft. May not matter here, but you know, just for habit, make sure that you roll your submarine separately any time there's a battle involving aircraft. So 1 at 2 and a hit. So I'm going to put that hit beside the sub. I'm going to apply that there just so that we know. Moving on, no dice for this here. 2 at 3. Man, that cruiser would have been nice at this point, but 2 at 3 for the fighters. Ooh, now it's looking good for the Americans. And again, 5 at 4. Even though the battleship is damaged, it still gets its roll. 5 at 4. 5 at 4. Excellent roll. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there 7 here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There will be 1 unit left. 1 unit left. But we still need to decide what that unit is going to be. Now, here's the thing. If we knew that the attacker may retreat, that might affect whether or not we leave a battleship or a fighter. But because we know that it's an amphibious assault and they're not going to retreat, then that's going to help us in our decision whether we keep a boat or a fighter. So we know that they're not going to retreat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the battleship will stay. Not a whole lot of strategy there in regards to that, but it does kind of matter if you think that the attacker may retreat. Especially if you have aircraft that can't land properly. Now that's not this scenario, but if you leave aircraft behind that needed to land on an aircraft carrier that's not there anymore, the attacker could retreat and allowing you to lose your aircraft without even rolling a dice. So let's continue here. So we're going to remove this. That was a hit. I already applied it here. And we do have a ship. Now, if there were no ships to remove and the submarine hit, it would be negated just simply because if there was only aircraft left, right? But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just go ahead with the defense roll here. 1 at 2, 2 at 3, 5 at 4. Let's try and get some Americans here. 1 at 2. Miss. 2 at 3. 1 hit only. And here's our 5 at 4. 5 at 4. Uh-oh. Oh, no. That's pretty good. So 4, so 5. So 5 total for Japan. So remember, we're going to lose a fighter and a tactical bomber. So that's 3 units. We owe 2 more. See how the strategy is? As soon as I take this for 1, and take this for 1, if this battleship does not hit, then we're going to lose a fighter anyway, or a tactical bomber anyway. So I owe 2 more. I'm going to I'll take a fighter and a bomber as my 2 more. And at least we'll have 2 capital ships with a plane and keep a bomber. That's if the battleship misses. So all this is now gone. combat round number 3 here. We have, oh, because the fighter's gone, this moves down. Okay. So what we want to do in that case, we want to keep the fighter, simply because if the fighter survives and lands on here, it's good defense from any kind of counter attack. It's going to defend at 4 versus this. Now taking this is going to move the tactical bomber down. So we have 1 at 3, 2 at 4. 1 at 3. Nope. 2 at 4. There it is. So the Japanese battleship will get to fire back here. 1 at 4. Hit. So, interesting. It depends what the counter situation looks like. If there are a couple of units in range that could take out these ships, you might want to help the defense by doing that. So we'll take the bomber, just because we know that this plus this even damage is still good protection for these 2 transports. Now this is gone and there's offensive units left, so this transport is the last casualty to come off. We do actually have to, no we don't, it's an auto kill. Alright, moving on now. Damaged. Now we're going to now land. So the sea combat was finished. 2 capital ships remain, 1 damaged. The 2 transports are now going to land our 4 units in on the Philippines against 2 infantry. That's the next part of this. So we're going to get 4 at 2. The attacker again, 4 at 2. There's 1 hit. Yep, 1 hit. Now the Japanese will defend. Of course, they're going to take 1 infantry as a casualty. Defense, nothing. So it's now 4 at 2 against 1 at 2. 4 at 2. There they are, 3 ones. That'll take care of the Japanese infantry. Now, you may think that the battle is lost and the infantry is going down. Doesn't matter what we roll, but we really want a hit here. And the reason being is because, and I see this a lot, people just don't understand these different logistics of it. We want a hit here just simply because these 2 ships are primed to pick up whatever's left to go do other things. So we want a hit here to just sort of mess up the fully loaded capabilities of these 2 ships. So 1 at 2. Miss. So the Philippines is now taken with 2 artillery, 2 infantry. These 2 transports can now in their next turn, if they survive, pick up those 4 units, go do something else that hurts Japan. So let's get a proper, so this is what's remaining. The Americans defeat the Japanese in Sea Zone 35, liberate the Philippines no problem, and have quite a nice force to fend off any aircraft or other sea units coming in, not to mention the fact that they dealt a huge blow to the Japanese fleet, which they really need. But we got to see how kamikazes work, got to see a sea battle, not very large in comparison to Pacific naval battles, but still significant enough. Alright, that was fun. Thanks guys. Hopefully it was helpful. Remember to make a comment about that question I asked. And if I made a mistake or did something wrong, please tell us in the comment section. Hopefully it helps the new players understand how to go through these things. Alright, take care. Cheers. May all your rolls be ones. Have a good weekend.